I look like I've been through something, and in all honesty, I have. These are the three horror books that have let me down in the month of March. Let's talk about it. So, as is the norm on not just booktube but social media these days, if you are being negative about something, you have to put on a disclaimer saying that you are not a hater. So, I'm gonna put a disclaimer: I'm not a hater of horror. These are just some of the books that have let me down. I started reading horror 2 to 3 years back, and what started off as curiosity, what started off as trying to read outside my comfort zone, quickly turned into finding books that scratch the specific itch that I had. So I started off with classic horror stories like A Woman in Black or The Haunting of Hill House. And then I slowly moved on to more modern horror books. And while I like most of the books that I read, I also tend to be more critical about the horror books that I read. And yeah, people say that I don't like horror or I hate horror or, horror is not for me. But I disagree because horror is not just meant to entertain you, and you're not just meant to consume horror and like it or enjoy it. Horror is meant to make you uncomfortable, it's meant to make you think about things, it's meant to start a conversation, a discourse around different topics. And although the horror books that have let me down, I did not have a good time reading them, but they did in fact made me, question things or think about things more deeply, or taught me different things that I never, knew before. So although these horror books did not give me a good time, like I did not feel like I was having a good time reading these horror books, but still, I'm glad that I read them and that these books they had something in them that changed my perspective a bit. The first book that I'm going to talk about, the biggest disappointment of this year so far, is Star Waker by Andrew Michael Hurley. So, Andrew Michael Hurley is a well known name in the folk horror subgenre. So folk horror is something that I've really enjoyed in the past, and I'm constantly looking for folk horror books that will not just scare me. Like folk horror books, I don't find folk horror books scary, but I find them food for thought. I find them disturbing. They make me feel things that no other subgenre of books can. It is one of the original books that gave rise to the subgenre of folk horror. Like, it came out quite early, maybe 5 years ago, and there's also a movie based on the book. So you can tell if a book is, famous, there will be a movie based on it. Anyway, so it kind of helped shape the subgenre of folk horror, is what I'm trying to say. So definitely I wanted to give it a shot, and I gave it a shot. The writing was phenomenal. I loved the writing, and the creeping dread in the first two-thirds of the book was amazing. I was expecting it to have a great ending. I did not want anything out of the box. I did not want it to, like really horrify me or really surprise me. I didn't want it to be a subversion of the genre. I knew it won't be a subversion of the genre because it is one of the forefathers of the genres. I was expecting something really solid, like really satisfying from the end. But the end was abrupt, came like it just ended. Like there were so many threads that were running that were not resolved at the end. It could have gone so many ways, but it felt like the author wrote himself into the corner and could not find a way to satisfyingly end the story, and therefore he was just like, just cut it off in the middle of it and was like, yeah, this is a ambiguous ending and all that. And while I like ambiguous endings in horror, ambiguous endings are one of the best kinds of endings you can have. But this did not feel ambiguous. This felt very sudden, and it felt unfinished, unpolished, and like, what the fuck just happened? And it felt like you had such a good beginning, such a good build up, and you have nothing to show for it. So that is what made the experience tainted, in my opinion. But I regret reading the book? No. I would have regretted not reading the book, like not experiencing the prose, not experiencing the atmosphere, the dread that it built up. Yeah, the ending was a disappointment, but I still experienced something in the story, and it gave me food for thought and made me realize how the genre has like come into being and how it is evolving throughout time. So yeah, like I don't regret reading the book, but I was disappointed. So that is Starwaker. Next book that I was disappointed by was uh, how do you say it? Like, I want to say guillotine, but it's a French word, and you're supposed to say it like this, like guillotine. Anyway, so Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. So I read Bloom by the author last year, fell in love with the book, fell in love with the author's writing style, the themes, and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna devour everything that the author has out till now. So of course I read Guillotine, whatever, by Dawson this year when I needed a palate cleanser because her books are very short and very punchy. At least it was short. Like, I didn't know if it was gonna be punchy, but it was short. So I gave it a try. It has the trope of eat the rich, rage, revenge, all those things. Splatterpunk, I think it's called. A lot of people are dying and in a very messy and gory ways and all that. And I don't have a problem with that. I love that. Like, I like it when people in books die in messy and gory ways. I eat it up. Like, not literally, but you get the point. I went into it blind, okay. But still, I kind of saw things coming. I kind of knew what was going to happen the moment certain things were mentioned. And while I don't mind that, like, I don't mind if a story is predictable, if I can predict what is gonna happen, if the execution is satisfying. Again, I did not feel that. See, the characters were dying left, right, and center, but I did not feel a connection to the characters to feel for them, or like, yes, this character should die and feel satisfied by the deaths. I was like, I don't feel anything about any of the characters here, so I don't care if they live or die. What I'm trying to say is that I did not have that emotional connection with the characters. Like, emotional connection can go both ways. You can either love the characters or you can like despise the characters. And I did not despise the characters enough to want them to die. And yeah, that's basically what I didn't like about the book. Yeah, the themes, the message of the book, it was very like at this point it's very relevant. I really appreciate the book for that, but I did not find it that deep. It felt kind of surface level to me. I felt that the book felt very forgettable. Do I regret reading the book? I had a good time while reading it. Like, the writing is good. Dawson's prose, the way she writes, violence and gore and all that, it's good. But the depth, emotional depth was not there. So yeah, that is Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. So the third book that I want to talk about is Come Closer by Sarah Grant. So Come Closer by Sarah Grant has been a cult favorite in the horror genre since it came out in 2020. And I've seen Riley Marie reads rave about the book. Like she was the only one on BookTube who talked about it when it came out, and then slowly and slowly I saw other people picking it up and talking about it, really liking it, really enjoying it. It was from the point of view of someone being possessed or someone who thought who was being possessed. And I was intrigued, and it was short, so I thought, why not? I read that. It was okay, but again, like the emotional depth that I was expecting, it was not there. And I understand that it was the first of its kind to subvert the trope of demonic possession, and that's why people talked about it when it came out. But now there are so many other horror books that are doing so much better, that are talking about the similar themes and executing it in a much better way, that I feel that Come Closer is not unique enough in this time, in this age. It doesn't have that bite to make a mark on the reader's psyche. And I feel that, yeah, it's a good book for when it came out. But right now, there are so many other books in the genre about unhinged women or female rage or I support women's rights and wrongs. I recognize it for what it did for the the niche subgenre, but you need to go in with the right expectations. If you go in expecting it to be, like a mind bending story or something like that, it won't be. It's a quiet story. It's a story that won't scare you. It won't even creep you out, but it will stay with you somewhere in your mind, in the back of your head, like the demon in the story. And it will, like, not haunt you, but it will have an effect on your thoughts and will sometimes come out unexpectedly. So, what I'm trying to say is that I appreciate the book, but my enjoyment was like not what I was expecting it to be. Like, it's not a bad book, it's a good book. It has got some good themes. It's a quiet kind of a horror. Like, it's not gonna give you, the thrills and chills of usual demonic possession books, like My Best Friend's Exorcism or something like that. But it's gonna make you think about certain things, like how women are sold this dream of having a happy, perfect life, and how they are told every day the compromises they have to make to hold on to this happy, perfect life. And if they're not good enough, if they're not perfect enough, if they're not docile enough, they're not gonna have this perfect life. So I like that theme a lot, but I felt that it could have been longer. It could have explored it a bit in depth. So yeah, that's what I feel about the book. Anyway, these are the three horror books that I felt let down by. I usually like horror that are on the shortest side, like that are novellas and novelettes. I don't like 500-page horror or something like that. But yeah, these felt like these could have been longer. These could have, the topics could have been explored in details, in depth, a bit more. So I was expecting more, and I didn't get that. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.